Good afternoon, audience, and good afternoon, Dr. Holowchak. Thank you for
You
being
are
here
in a
today.
you are in a bubbly mood, to say the least.
Well, I have to turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
I like your
don't we all have to do that, right?
yeah,
Our
yeah.
life.
Yeah, I don't want to do the show in my usual mood.
So you're the grumpy one and I'm the cheerful one.
No, no,
Come on,
no,
I
no,
don't think
no.
anybody's gonna buy that.
No, I'm pretty happy most of the time. Um, okay, so we'd like to apologize, or I'd like to apologize for my absence. Apologize to the audience. I was selected to attend the Civic Summer Teacher Institute at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. So I spent a week there, and I got to see Thomas Jefferson's library.
I saw that. I thought you were philandering the whole time. So you're actually doing some work, huh?
Oh no, I got my library card at the Library of Congress, but I spent most of the time in his library just looking at all of his books. Wow, I guess that's what you do when you don't have the internet or social media. Maybe we need to shut it down for a couple months so everybody starts reading again.
Books are kind of cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I love them.
Yeah, he had a lot of Bibles, different
Yeah.
Bibles. Yeah, yeah, that was pretty interesting. And he actually had I don't know if it was called a romance section. And I'm thinking, he probably didn't read those books very much.
No.
But and I got to see the Supreme Court, and I actually attended a lecture in the Supreme Courtroom, the Supreme Court courtroom. That was cool. So I got to be in the actual courtroom. So
And
that was
I got to
nice.
do a lot of driving. That's about it. I went off to Cody, Wyoming to visit an old friend.
Yeah.
Uh, the Cody Kid with Cowboy Chuck, and we had an adventure out there. It was a lot of driving though. It was a fun trip, So I've been busy myself.
Yeah. I like to
Anyways,
drive.
what are we doing today?
Nothing. No, I'm joking. We're
Yeah.
doing the real Thomas Jefferson, episode 25. Wow. And it's about the young Jefferson in love. So I'm sure his romance books were purchased after this age we'll discuss today.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe to give him some tips in terms of how to behave vis-a-vis women. You never know. We're gonna find out just how Jefferson behaved around women, how smooth he was. Was
I
was
don't
he
believe
as was he as well, how do you pronounce his name? Sade, a smooth operator? Or was he a clumsy geek around women? We'll answer that
my
question.
guess, my guess is he was a clumsy geek.
I'm going with smooth operator. I just like to say that.
Oh,
That
smooth
term.
operator. Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see. But just from what I've learned about him, I'm guessing the clumsy. Okay, so today's episode of The Real Thomas Jefferson is Young Jefferson in Love. Thomas Jefferson has often been dubbed
In love, right?
love. He's been dubbed a jagged edged or crude Lothario. Did I say it correctly? Lothario?
Yes, you did. Yeah. You
Okay.
know your Shakespeare.
Who Ooh, who, when the mood hit him, could use his wiles or his political or personal station to finagle and have his way with women. But I already have a question because but prior to his political um, position, did he have as much pull? But anyway, was Jefferson really such a Lothario, even if unpolished? In this episode, we look at young Thomas Jefferson's first love, Rebecca Burwell. Colonel Holowchak, or is it Doctor? Are you Colonel or Doctor today?
I'm both. Going with the Colonel. I just like the sound of that Colonel French.
I know. Why wasn't it spelled C-O-R? Anyway.
Yeah, that's the way we mispronounce it. Let's just say it should be called.
Oh, okay. So So Dr. Holowchak is going to share his thoughts on Jefferson's supposed uncorralled libido. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so the aim of the show, first and foremost, is of The Real Thomas Jefferson, is to get real about Thomas Jefferson, to revisit and revise the revisionists who are ever in the business of deconstructing Jefferson's prose, his letters, addresses, memos, etc. Nearly all Jeffersonian biographers today take it upon themselves to write of Jefferson's protean nature or Janus-facedness. What Jefferson says most often cannot be understood literally. His prose must be deconstructed, and so intuitiveness and knack are needed in preference to logical acumen. It is commonplace to call the man a hypocrite and even a contradiction. This show, then, aims to dispel that myth. Jefferson can be known, and logic, not intuitive and discretionary deconstruction, is the method. So Dr. Holowchak, or Colonel Holowchak, is going to share his logical deconstruction of Thomas Jefferson. I'm Donna.
I'm not going to be doing any deconstructing. That's just what I try to avoid at all costs. Deconstruction is really a look and reading into the text possible meanings by sort of entering into the mind of the writer or something.
Yeah, that's a sticky place to be, because people are guessing and coming from their own thoughts, which may not be how he was thinking. So it's really hard.
That's presentism. I mean, the analyticity with which I work presupposes we don't have to deconstruct, uses deconstruction. We could say unconstruction. I just want to undo Jefferson thinking, build back up to understand exactly what he was thinking.
Right.
Yep, that's an impossible task, but we're trying to do the best we can to think about, to try to figure out how the person thought and what he meant. But my personal method, clearly, being an analytic philosopher and historian, is to take Jefferson at his word, always, unless there is good reason not to do so. So we're going to look at some of Jefferson's writings today and try to unconstruct, let's use that word, his relationship with Rebecca Burwell. Deconstruction is a specific philosophical term that deals with reading into texts, and every person gets something different out of the text. And as an analytic philosopher, that's abhorrent, disgustingly so.
That's so true. That's so true. The way we all get something different out of text, and even as adults, and then students also, from their perspective. Yeah. Okay, so the first question I have is, who was this Rebecca Burwell?
I'm not going to go into a lengthy peroration here. I don't have a lot to say. I mean, you can get information on her through the genealogical websites. That's what I did. She was Jefferson's first love. That's what, makes her important today, historically important. She was
How old was he? How old was he when he was in love with her? Do you know?
20 years old or so, right at that time. She was 3 years his junior. She was born into wealth and was orphaned at 10. She was raised in Yorktown, right at the home of her uncle and aunt, Elizabeth and William Nelson. And she was introduced to Jefferson at some social events at William and Mary College. Her brother attended with Jefferson, William and Mary College, and somehow he got introduced to her, 3 years his junior, through her brother. And all we know at some point is he fell madly in love with Rebecca. And he had, we'll find out, a silhouette. They didn't have cameras at the time. They didn't have cell phones, as you well know. And so they couldn't just snap the pictures. They would cut silhouettes. Those things, very talented people would use scissors. And when you have your pocket watch, I don't think I have a pocket watch with me. It was standard characteristic to keep picture or a drawing or a silhouette of the person you love in your pocket watch. That was done all the time to remind.
Oh, like a locket, like how we used to have pockets and pictures in the locket.
Women would have a locket, men would have a pocket watch with the, he had the silhouette of her in there. So she gave her, her silhouette, and that's that. That's what we know about her. She marries, we'll find out, Jack Ambler
Oh.
sometime after this relationship with Jefferson. That's all I'm going to say
Oh,
about that.
poor guy. Okay. So in a letter to his boyhood friend, John Page, dated December 25th, 1762, Jefferson has the mulligrubs. He writes, "This very day to others, the day of greatest mirth and jollity, sees me overwhelmed with more and greater misfortune than have befallen a descendant of Adam for those 1,000 years past." Can you tell us more? What does
Yeah,
that mean?
I'm gonna bring up part of that letter
Okay.
that about what you're talking here. And let me get full screen here. So we're going to minimize your lovely face in my figure, so our audience can see. This is on December 25, 1762. He writes to his boyhood friend John Page. His earliest letters are to John Page. He says, "This very day, to others the day of greatest mirth and jollity, sees me overwhelmed with more and greater misfortunes than have befallen a descendant of Adam for those 1,000 years past." You can see his at William and Mary, his biblical education.
Right, that's a reference, right?
Yeah, the
Wow.
subtle particles of the water with which the case was filled, his pocket watch, had by their penetration so overcome the cohesion of the particles of the paper, of which my dear picture and watch paper were composed, that in attempting to take them out to dry them, good God, mens hodit refer, my cursed fingers gave them such a rent as I fear I never shall get over.
Oh, so
Uh,
he ripped the picture.
well, it decomposed because it got wet. Now,
Oh,
the mind, mens hodit refer, the mind is terrified to think back upon this episode. He doesn't even want to think about what happened. Look at his articulation here. Excuse me, I want to go back up. He says the subtle particles of water with which the case had by their penetration. It's like he's talking like a physicist
yeah.
or a biochemist, right? You can tell he's a young man. He's what, 19 years of age here, going to be 20 pretty soon, and he's talking like talking like a physicist, talking about how the water penetrates into the watch and it overcomes the cohesion of the particles of the paper. I find that sort of almost laughable that he's talking like a young scholar is what he's talking about. So
Yeah.
he has this debacle, this terrible event. Is the picture of his loved one. The thing is, okay, could he go out and ask Burwell for another picture? This suggests that he's afraid to do that. I mean, it suggests so.
Hmm.
So this is his first. He refers to this is the first reference we have to his beloved Rebecca Burwell, and it's about a singular incident where her silhouette is described.
Did he meet her in college?
No, she wasn't his. Like I said, her brother was going to William and Mary, and she met him probably at some social affair.
Oh,
Women
okay.
weren't allowed at William and Mary at the
Oh,
time, and
oh,
so she had to meet him at very likely at some social event through her brother. Fell
oh,
madly in love with her.
okay. Okay. Yeah, stay away from my sister, buddy. There are other letters too. On October 7th, 1763, Thomas Jefferson tells of a clumsy proposal of marriage. Oh my goodness, I need to hear more.
Yeah, there are several letters with vis-a-vis the relationship of Jefferson and Burwell, and they flummox me, and they, more than that, I think they're astonishing because they reveal a lot about Jefferson's early, romantic nature, as it were. let's read this and we can talk about it. He says, uh, this is almost a year later from the other letter, 10 months later. In the most melancholy fit that ever any poor soul was, I sit down to write you. He has mullygrubs again. He's depressed. Last night, as merry as agreeable company and dancing with Belinda, that's his pet name for her, in the Apollo room of Raleigh Tavern, square room, a very Raleigh Tavern, very famous place to meet, could make me. I never could have thought the succeeding sun would have seen me so wretched as I am now. I was prepared to say a great deal to Rebecca. I had dressed up in my own mind such thought as occurred to me in as moving language as I knew how, and expected to have performed in a tolerably credible manner. But good God, when I had an opportunity of venting them, a few broken sentences, uttered in great disorder, and interrupted with pauses of uncommon length, were the two visible marks of my strange confusion.
Oh my gosh.
So what do you think is going on here?
He's fumbling. He's clumsy with his presentation to her.
Well, what presentation might that be?
Oh, well, we were talking about maybe a marriage proposal.
Yeah, this is what he has in mind. He wants to get married. So he had I was prepared to say a great deal. I dressed up in my own mind. Such thoughts has occurred to me. If you know Jefferson, when he says I dressed up, he sat down with a piece of paper and wrote down everything that he wanted to say in a very logical, sequentially sequentious manner. Everything had to be, his thoughts had to be arranged perfectly. And he scripted it without question. And he rehearsed it time and time and time. And then what happened when he got to the room, probably was dancing with her and went to the corner or outside the room to talk to her. What happens then to this script that he has?
He says that when he had an opportunity to vent them, a few broken sentences uttered in great disorder and interrupted with pauses of uncommon length. Oh, so he would stutter like he was almost talking and then stopping. And
well, he loses the script. He draws a blank when he's in front of her. He's so in love with her that everything that he scripted, he forgets and doesn't know how to say what he wants to say about his love for her and the proposal of marriage. And what I think happens, a woman knows if a man wants to propose, and if a woman is not interested in accepting the proposal, you are going to send, correct me if you think this is wrong, you're going to send not so subtle, rather unsubtle hints all night long that I'm not interested.
Right, right.
Subtle and unsubtle hints. So what I think is going on, you can give me what you think, is that he's got this whole script, and by the time he gets down, it's not that he's irremediably clumsy with everything he rehearsed. I think what happened is that throughout, prior to him wanting to say what he wanted to say, she's throwing out all sorts of hints that I'm not interested in the proposal. I know what you're going to do, and no, it's not going to happen. So she's probably pushing him aside and making him very uncomfortable. So when the time comes out, he's just incapable of saying what he wants to say. What do you think?
Or maybe she was turned off by his lack of confidence.
Well, that could be. I mean, Jefferson, you say lack of confidence. I agree with that. This shows that Jefferson, with respect to women at the time, has no confidence. Right. He's not master of the situation. Now, no. Jefferson has always said mastery. He wasn't a great lawyer insofar as he couldn't express his views in front of an audience, in front of a jury or a judge in an audience. But he was great with what? Writing.
Right. He was knowledgeable. He had the knowledge and he had the ability to articulate it in writing, but he couldn't do it verbally.
I would love to see a sketch of what he prepared to say if that was written out somewhere, as I suspect it was, it would be wonderful to see what he had to say to her and how everything got botched. But he's clumsy. I think she threw out hints throughout the night. She knew I was coming that day. She did not want to hear the proposal of marriage, so she discouraged it in numerous ways throughout the night. If I'm wrong, and if what you said is right, that she was indifferent, she didn't sense anything coming, and when it came time for him to say so, he just botched it. Either way, he's certainly not a master of the situation.
No, no, not at all. Not at
He
all.
is no Lothario, right?
No. Oh gosh. Okay, so finally there is his letter to Paige of January 19th, 1764. A letter from Devilsburg. Where is Devilsburg?
Devilsburg is Williamsburg. When you have mullygrubs and you're in a bad mood, Williamsburg's
Oh,
gonna be Devilsburg. That's where William and Mary is, right?
oh, okay. So he would call it, oh, so he's not happy. So he's
He
calling it
not have.
Devilsburg. Right. Oh,
Well, this is
poor.
going on for what? The better part of at least, let's go back to the first letter, December 62. This is
Wow.
January. So this is, close to a year and a half. He's
So almost his full, well, because well, back then were you in college for 4 years to get a degree or?
No, it just he was in there just to learn certain things and so forth. He had 2 years of Jefferson had 2 years of college
Okay.
and so forth.
So for his
But
college career, he spent it pining over Rebecca Burwell.
well, part of it certainly. Well,
Yeah.
he needed is whatever education you might need in preparation to be a lawyer. That was his path at the time, to be a lawyer. So he probably envisaged that, yeah, Rebecca and I are going to get married. I'll be a Virginian lawyer and we'll make our, there weren't a lot of options for men of means at the time. There weren't a lot of career. You could be a lawyer, a politician, and he was a great violinist, but if you were a person of means, you were not supposed to make a living by playing the violin, which Jefferson could have done. That was demeaning
All right.
A colonel, a Virginian colonel. You don't play, you do that for free. The people who
Right.
are poor will earn money playing for music stuff. So there weren't
Right.
too many. So we have this letter to Paige.
Now we know he did get, oh, I'm sorry, you're still talking about Paige. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. I'm just saying. Go ahead with what you
Well,
want.
I'm just so curious. I don't want time to run out. I'm just so curious when, because we know he was married, so he obviously matured or changed a little bit between this love and when he married his wife. How many years were between those two?
Well, 72 to 82. That's when he was married and so forth. She passes away. He I'll answer that. Let's do this first, and then let's come back to that, because that's you're asking, in effect, was he always clumsy?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the progression of his maturity in relationships with females throughout his life. Like,
well, that's the question. We'll talk about that after this, because that's an interesting question, and I certainly have a take on that. So he writes, "Good God, it's impossible. I told you our confab, our meeting in the Apollo room, but I believe I never told you that we had on another occasion." I then opened my mind more freely and more fully. So there's another moment where he got her alone, where he could speak to her privately. So he says, "I mentioned the necessity of my going to England and the delays which would constantly be occasioned by that. I said in what manner I should conduct myself till then, and explained my reasons, which appeared to give that satisfaction I could have wished. In short, I managed in such a manner that I was tolerably easy myself, without doing anything which could give Adnileb's friends," that's Belinda backwards in Greek letters. He's studying Greek, obviously, "the least umbrage." We don't want to give them any reason to be angry, "were the whole that passed to be related to them." He doesn't want to piss off Belinda's friends by doing anything untoward. I asked no question which would admit of a categorical or definite answer, but assured Belinda that such questions would one day be asked. Then he goes, my fate depends on Belinda's present or Adnileb's present resolutions. By them I must stand or fall. If they are not favorable to me, it is out of my power to say anything to make them so which I have not already, so that a visit could not possibly, you know how I love could not possibly. I put a seek after that. Jefferson, just say, I could not, a visit that could not be of the least weight. You don't need the possible, Jefferson. So what do we got going on here? A lot of stuff, right? He gets her alone, and I open my mind more freely and fully. Why? Because he's not proposing marriage here. Instead, he tells her that he has to go to England. Does Jefferson go to England at this time for any reason?
What year was it? Let me look back. It was
1764.
1764. What was he in 1760?
Does he have to go to England, you think? I'm just asking you.
I'm thinking not.
No. There's no planned trip to England at all. It's just bullshit, right? He says, necessity of going to England, and then there'll be delays. In other words, he's saying, I can't really propose to you right now because I got this important, business or political trip. And all right, Tom, where's this trip to England? What are you going to do? There's no record of going. He never went to England. So why are you talking about that?
He's making himself look important to her. He's trying to impress her.
Yeah. And well, if I tell you, you're Belinda and I'm Thomas, and I say, well, I have to go to England, on this important trip. What are you supposed to say if you're madly in love?
Right.
When I tell you, pretend you're Belinda,
I want to go with you.
What's that? I want to go with you.
I would say I want to go with you.
And I say you can't. And then you're supposed to say, no, please don't go.
Right. Yeah.
Or how's the song go? Baby, please don't go.
Please don't go. Don't go.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're supposed to say that. And I think this is all a setup. I think he knows or suspects she doesn't love him. So he's throwing out this trip. It's a face-saving mechanism. He's throwing out this trip to England. And he fully expects her, if she loves him, to say, please don't do that. What am I going to do without you? You're going to be gone for a long time. Right. Then he said, I didn't say anything that would make her friends angry. Right. Then he says, I asked no question, made a categorical answer. In other words, would you marry me? But I said that, the right question will be asked at some day. It would one day be asked. Then he ends by saying, well, everything, my fate is in her hands. By them I must stand or fall. Right? If they're not favorable to me, let's read that again. It is out of my power to say anything to make them so, which I have not said already. Right? So what does that say about Jefferson? I'm going to stop sharing here. What does that say about him being in control of the situation, being a Lothario?
I still don't think he is.
No, he's not. But what does that say? I mean, he says, my fate is in her hands. If you really love somebody, if you're a man at the time, what is the manly thing to do?
I don't know. What is the manly thing to do?
Just express your love and just say, hey, give me an answer one way or another.
Oh, yeah. He could have pressed her for it.
Yeah, but he doesn't. But you don't say my fate is. I'm just going to throw out a scenario, and it's up to her. If she says, please don't go. It's very easy to say, would you marry me? I really love you, and that, but he can't do that. So he comes up with another scheme. I'm going to England. What an ass. Okay.
Yeah.
This is really something else. And I am taken aback by this situation here. I don't know what to say. It shows that Jefferson, at this point in his life, is completely a slave to his passions, does not know how to express himself comfortably around women. He's a klutz. He's a complete klutz.
So I wonder how it was with his wife. When he met his wife, was he clumsy with her?
We don't know. I mean, at some point, I mean, she was recently widowed with a small child that Jefferson adopts, and the child will die soon. We have nothing. We know nothing, relatively nothing about his relationship to his wife, except, anecdotal thoughts, I guess, by Jefferson's children, who
And
knew.
then how he suffered when she passed away.
Oh, we know he was very much in love with her.
Right.
But in terms of the courting, let's put it
Yeah.
this: we've done the show on the causeway, and was he Lothario there or clumsy with her? Do you remember?
I think he was, I thought he was kind of stoic. He was completely different than this.
Well,
It's
remember his
like,
head and heart letter?
yeah,
And
yeah,
he writes this enormously long, several pages, many pages long, and he has a debate. He can't just come out and say, I found you very lovely, very intelligent, very well schooled in the arts, in music, and in drawing and painting. He's got to have a debate about the nature of falling in love, and he leaves it at that. And she's overwhelmed by that because it's an elliptical, not a direct, but an elliptical expression of his love for Causeway. She's so overwhelmed by this letter in a negative way that the following letter is, she's backing off. It's sort of like that letter shows that Jefferson, when he does comes on too strong. He overdoes it. He's not confident. He's got this debate,
yeah. He should probably thought he was crazy.
and then there was an affair he had with Betsy Walker that he admitted to. That's the only affair he says he ever admitted to. He says, when young, I made love to a handsome female. I admit it was wrong. That was between these events before he got married. And to what extent, we'll do that on another show. To what extent was he really implicated in making love to her? Did he really make love, or did he make a proposal to her? Did she propose to him? It's entirely possible that he was rather sheepish in that. There's no question he was clumsy with Maria Causeway, clumsy here. Why should you think? A lot of scholars said with Betsy Walker, he's this Lothario. If I'm clumsy here, then in between that, I'm more likely going to be very clumsy. Right. So, I have a take. Jefferson was a klutz around women. I have to think that the relationship with his wife, he was klutzy, at least at first. She was tolerant of his klutziness, if there is such a word. And at some point, they hit it off because he was a great violinist. She was good at piano and other related instruments like that. So I think he was rather klutzy with his wife, but at some point, the two, she needed a husband. She was widowed with a child, and he loved her very much. Did she reciprocate that love to the same extent? Probably. We don't know. All we know is that ending letter from Lawrence Stern, where they talk about, the eternal separation they're about to make. It's a very moving moment. So in some, I think Jefferson was always klutzy around women. When he went to France and he was talking to the women in the salons, he was uncomfortable with women being in salons, with women talking political matters and everything. They weren't supposed to be doing that, supposed to have a domestic role. But nonetheless, he was intrigued by intelligent women, but I think probably comfortable around intelligent women, but not feminine women, not domestic women, marriable, nubile women. He was very, very uncomfortable. That's my take, and I think it's quite right. He was a klutz.
Yeah, true, because he did have what you would seem as normal friendship with Abigail. He wasn't klutzy, but he also wasn't in love with her. But he wasn't klutzy in his correspondence and relationship with her. So I guess it was just with women he had interest in.
Yeah, he was. She was highly intelligent, as we well know, but she wasn't the Raquel Welch of her day. Let's put it that way. So of course, John Adams wasn't, the Burt Reynolds or whoever you want to call. So I don't know. I mean, it was very easy for him to be comfortable around her, but again, they had a party. So, I mean, all things considered, I think my view is, and I express it in Thomas Jefferson's Psychobiography of American Line, where I do a psychoanalytic assessment of Jefferson. He's always clumsy around women. People have said, okay, well, that's the reason why he had an affair with Sally Hemings, because she was easy to bully or move over because she was his slave. That's another issue. I don't think he would have been clumsy around her, but I don't think he had any interest in her. Nothing in his thousands and thousands of writings expresses any interest, shows any interest. In my argument has always been psychoanalytically, if I'm in love with somebody, that person's name's going to pop up quite a bit in my writings, if only to say something, that's Sally Hemings. She takes care of Maria so well. She's such a good nursemaid to Maria.
Right.
Her name will pop up because he's thinking about her. Her name never pops up. He doesn't care about her.
Right.
But the people at Monticello, they don't care. They just said, oh, she wrote to him letters of love and he to her, and they burned them all. And he was so smitten by her. That's for another show. We've done that as well.
Oh.
People they love the scandalous stuff,
Oh, somebody said that letters did exist.
Well, they want to make Sally Hemings to be a literate person, so they say, yeah, letters probably existed, but they were burned. There's no evidence of any letters. Just if there's no evidence, it's convenient to say, well, there were, but they were burned.
Right. You could say anything.
You can say anything, right? There are letters between me and my dog. He is an intelligent creature who's capable of writing. He's capable of sleeping.
Come visit me today, Jeffy. My feelings are hurt. Jeffy.
Well, he's got allergies, so he's been scratching a lot. I put some lotion on him. I'm gonna take him to the vet and give him my brother's wife give him a shot. So anyways, I don't have anything to say. We have some what's up in future shows. We can do at some point the Jefferson's affair with Betsy Walker. Does Jefferson really initiate that affair? Did he make love to her? Did he actually make love to her? Given what we've talked of today, this clumsy oaf, I think he would have been very difficult for him to make an overture.
Yeah.
And then we'll do some political stuff. I want to talk about Jefferson nationhood. And you had a few ideas that you wanted.
Yeah, I went right through my head. So, but it'll come back to me when I start.
All right. Well, we have under a minute to go. It's good to see you back.
You too.
I'm in my library in Lexington, right?
Yeah.
Kentucky. The colonel in his
my library looks just like Jefferson's. This is exactly what his books look like. My books.
Oh, exactly. I got
it. Yeah, they do.
All right, my dear. That's it. Let's do a ta-ta for now from the colonel.
Okay.
We'll do this
Thank
again.
you, everyone.
Good to
Please
see you back.
and share. Okay,
Bye-bye.
you too. Bye.